Disappointment absolutely is not harm. And I think the equation is disappointment just feels icky. Nobody wants to disappoint anyone. It just feels like a big letdown when you disappoint somebody or when you're disappointed. Who the hell taught us that someone else being upset or disappointed meant that I did something wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Sorry you're disappointed. That's not my problem. Welcome back to Unapologetic Rebel Rousers. I'm DocShellie.
And I'm Carla Lewis. So, Michelle,
Carla.
let's take this over-functioning theme that we've been working with.
Yes.
And let's start taking a look at what happens when we buy into the fact that, yeah, that's been going on. And what I need to do is stop that.
Stop that nonsense.
Just stop that nonsense. So, looking at this episode, the notion of calling this, let them be disappointed.
Ooh.
Let them be disappointed. And what is this all about? Because you are not responsible for managing everyone else's reactions.
I'm not?
No.
Oh, boy.
And if you're going to be growing out of this over functioning that you've become newly aware of, fact is, people are going to notice. And it's not your responsibility to direct how they respond to that. You need to own the exit from overfunctioning. And so we understand that that's not easy. So we want to spend some time digging into what happens once you've become aware. I have been overfunctioning. Now what?
Yeah. And as you're talking, the question that is going through my brain here is, when exactly did we decide it was our job to regulate grown ass adults?
What a
Like,
great
why do I
question.
have to manage somebody else's feelings? Why do I have to edit what I'm going to say because I think you might get upset or I think it might hurt your feelings? If my intention is to share information with you, I can't control how you're going to react to that. I can't control what you're going to do with that. What I can control is how I deliver it. And
Yes.
I would have to check in with my own intention. Am I actually trying to hurt this person? The answer is no. So
No.
it's very interesting to me that so many adults feel like it is their job to regulate other people's feelings. And I don't know if they even recognize it.
It's an incredible responsibility to take on and an impossible
It's
one
an
to live up
impossible
to.
one.
You you cannot.
Yeah.
So the fact that we took our conversation into that notion of, yeah, this is what's going on, folks, over functioning. We really want to be able to spend some time talking about, okay, now that I've okay, I agree. That's what's been going on. And now, when we're talking about trying to manage other people's reactions to the fact that we stop doing stuff like that, your point is, well, how did we get there in the first place?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
what is it
really,
that,
like, what on earth caused that? And I get, we talked about it last time, right? It's all the way we were brought up. It's the whole, we don't need to revisit all that. But I think the question really is, if I stop doing all of those things, if I stop fixing, I stop carrying everyone else's burdens, I stop being the one to calm everything down, if I stop rescuing people, then who am I? Are they still going to want to be my friends? Are they still going to like me?
and you think about the shallowness of that. And I'm not using that word to discredit anybody, but there's something deeper. There's something, it's like you are trying to control what happens around you in the sense of people's reactions to you, and that's not taking responsibility. That is control dressed up as kindness.
Mm-hmm. Very so.
What does that do to you when we go into the space where, okay, I am going to do everything I can to pussyfoot around the issue. I'm going to do everything I can to pad the corners of the world so that nobody gets dinged or banged. And so would this is a very serious consideration. The responsibility that we have just adopted because, and if we can recognize that that's what's going on.
It's interesting to me. So this whole idea of emotional babysitting, right? I just had a conversation with a couple leaders the other day who are the kind of leaders who are fantastic problem solvers. So
Okay.
every time one of their team members comes to them, they solve the problem. And I was like, are you helping them grow? Are you helping them come up with solutions? No,
Mm.
we're just solving the problems. That's cool. That makes you feel really good, doesn't it? And they're like, yeah, they are the problem solvers. They have hero complex. They love to give the answers. It very
Oh,
much connects to this over functioning conversation. Because I said,
okay.
I asked the question, how would it feel for you if instead of solving the problem for them and giving them the answer, you asked a couple questions that helped them think through the situation differently?
Hmm.
I just got this death stare of,
Really?
well,
Really?
I mean, it might be good for them, right? And that is your job as a leader is to do things that are good for them. And they both had this sudden identity of crisis of, but then they won't need me anymore.
Oh, no.
Sweet pea, there are 1,000 other things you can do as a leader besides problem solve an issue that your team member is having.
Oh, my.
But it very much connects to this, right? If we
Yeah.
all of a sudden stop anticipating how somebody might feel, if we are, I love when somebody prefaces something, I have some bad news. Don't cry. I can, if I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry. I'm not a big crier, but the fact that you just told me not to cry is like, why would you put that limit on me? Like,
That's right. Who the heck are you to tell me how to
I
respond
can't
to
control,
whatever?
like, I'm going to have a reaction. I'm going to have a reaction.
Right.
And then, and taking ownership of someone else's disappointment. We can't do that. But
No.
my point is, if we are holding back a message, information, a thing, because we are trying to control that emotional reaction, I kind of want to think about it that I'm actually taking away somebody's learning opportunity. And that feels really crappy versus I just don't want them to have a big reaction. I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Well,
Inverse that thought to, but this could be a learning opportunity for this person. They need to learn
oh,
how to manage their feelings. They need to learn how to manage tough messages. They need to learn how to manage whatever. Why are you taking that opportunity away from them?
because being in control is more comfortable than having to deal with the unknown of their response, right?
Yeah.
And I think awareness about that is huge.
Yeah.
And it's not just in a work situation, friend situation, relationship situation, family situation. Yeah, it's an opportunity for somebody to grow, to learn.
Mhm.
And the way you just positioned it was that you're making a conscious decision to keep them from having that.
Yep.
I'm I
Selfish.
am more comfortable keeping you squelched than I am opening myself up to what might come in an uncontrolled
Exactly.
reaction.
Exactly.
Wow.
A quote rattling around in my head that I've heard, just because you can carry it doesn't mean it's yours to carry,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
why are we taking on extra burden and simultaneously taking away someone's learning opportunity? Why
And
would we do that to ourselves?
I think,
Habit.
yeah, well, there's habit. I think, but I want to step back just a half step because recognizing that that is a learning opportunity. Even being able to acknowledge that, okay, it could get uncomfortable, and it is going to help that person grow stronger, deeper, more aware, have their own work that has to go on in responding to it. I think just that awareness that you hold that key. And if you just need to hold on to your control because it's more important to you than anybody else's development or growth, that's limiting you as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say I'm this overfunctioner and they really like that about me. Well,
Yeah.
they don't actually say it that way.
Well, you're so nice. You're so helpful.
Yes, all the time. Yes, and you can count on me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm going to be there. But when I make that choice to not, there's going to be disappointment.
That's okay.
So it's about being able to position the fact that, yeah, there may be disappointment, but it is not, you're not doing bad, you're not doing harm.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Disappointment absolutely is not harm. And I think the equation is disappointment just feels icky, right? Nobody wants to disappoint anyone.
No.
It just feels like a big letdown when you disappoint somebody or when you're disappointed, right? As an overfunctioner, disappointment might feel like conflict. You might feel rejected by the person. Like, there's a whole lot that I think our nervous system tracks into when we think as an overfunctioner, we've disappointed somebody. And we have to realize that even disappointment is a feeling and an emotion. And that is either ours to process or somebody else's to process. If we think we're going to let somebody else down, let that happen. They need to figure it out.
I think that it's an important thing to be able to underscore the fact that you don't set out to disappoint somebody. If somebody responds to what you do with disappointment, it's because it's their choice. They're making a choice. You can't possibly set out to make somebody else disappointed, feel disappointed. You can know stuff that's going to fall short of their expectations. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
they're,
like I think of like a super simple situation. This has happened a number of times, right? I'm set to do something with a friend of mine, and something happens, something that's more important than us going on a field trip, on a day trip happens.
Mhm.
I know this is super disappointing, but my husband had a heart attack, for example, so I can't go. Am I disappointed? Sure. Am I more concerned about your husband? Yes. I can simultaneously be disappointed and fully understand the situation.
yeah.
So we could, I think sometimes we have gotten to a place in this world where everything is black and white, and we forget that we can actually hold two opposing things at the same time. I can be disappointed and I can still understand the situation and
Yes.
agree. Yes, this is the right thing to do. Of course, I'm disappointed. We'll reschedule for another time. Go do what you need to do. Understand. Like anything that comes up like that. Disappointed? Sure. Also, I can hold this other truth.
Yeah.
We sometimes forget the other truth can also be held. And I think there are times where people are going to be hugely disappointed in things, but that is not our emergency to manage.
Mm. No. And recognizing that there may be responses that are uncomfortable. Change change brings that on. And when you stop being the do it all, be there all the time, over functioning person as a regular as you breathe, you're over functioning. But that being able to say, you know what, people are going to notice. They're going to notice. And they're going to have their own reactions, and that's fine.
And
It's
that's
not
okay.
yours to
Let
control or
them.
manage.
And I go back to who the hell taught us
Mm,
that someone else being upset or disappointed meant that I did something wrong?
hmm.
I didn't do
Yes.
anything wrong.
No.
Sorry you're disappointed. That's not my problem.
No,
It doesn't mean I don't care. It doesn't mean I'm being callous, but
no.
why, if you're upset, does it mean I did something wrong?
And might there be another piece to this, which is if people are only comfortable with you or liking that over functioning person, then that's really important information too. If all that they're comfortable with is the way you always give, the way that you explain to the nth degree, if what they're comfortable with and what they really like about you is all of that, and you make a choice to move away from that, and they're disappointed and whatever, that's really important information.
Yeah, and I think as you recognize where you're over functioning, and maybe you're okay with your over functioning, Godspeed. If you're not, and you start to shift those things, to your point, people are going to feel that. Some people will be perfectly okay with it, and some people are going to be like, what the hell are you doing? I don't like this anymore. And here again, it does not mean you're wrong. It simply means the dynamics have shifted to your favor, I will add.
Yes.
But if people can't hang with your lessening your overfunctioning, that is on them. Overfunctioning is exhausting. It's like showing up in a really crappy environment for 8 hours and having to do everything you possibly can not to be yourself. It's exhausting at the end of the day. This is why people who are in jobs where they're not the right fit, they're not the right match, they're in the wrong kind of culture, they're exhausted. They get burnt out. It's because you're not being yourself. And that's what this overfunctioning is. You're
And
really
it,
not able to just be authentically you because you're too busy filtering yourself to prevent other people from having some sort of reaction. So you
and
overgive, you overexplain, you overaccommodate, you overapologize, you fix, you do everything yourself, you take it all on, you edit what you say. Why? Why do we do that?
I
And I
think
think about as we shift out of being that overfunctioner, when you change the role you are playing, the cast in your life might need to change.
mhm,
Huh?
yeah,
Something to think about.
it is something to think about. It's something to think about that in the previous episodes we had talked about, really teased apart this notion of overfunctioning. And now, if you own it and you've discovered the real you behind that mask or shroud, whatever, you make an important decision, and it's a tough one, and it's going to lead to discomfort inside you
Yeah.
and outside of you. You have to make a commitment that the discomfort you may feel about pulling back from what has been I'm air quoting, natural way of being, which hasn't been a natural way of being at all. You pull back from that, you are going to be uncomfortable. And the people around you will make their own choices about their comfort or not with those changes. And what the real work ends up being is developing that spine that says, you know what, I can tolerate the discomfort because
Yeah,
it's worth it to me.
absolutely. And I want to go back to something that you said in that it's not a natural way of functioning. I think for many people, it feels very natural because they've been doing it for so long. And I'll
Yes.
give you a personal example. I am a fast creative problem solver, always have been, Always will be. Do I
Mhm.
overfunction in that area? Yes. Do I do it intentionally sometimes? Yes. Also, I was out to dinner with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, and she's having some struggles with some stuff. And she started talking, and it's so hard for me not to flip into either problem solving or coach mode. And I thought, we are just here as friends. So I sat and listened to her. I let her do her thing, and I said nothing. And she just kept talking and talking and talking. And we got to the end, and she was like, thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, you just listened. She goes, and you didn't even ask me. She goes, because I've noticed sometimes you'll ask, do you want me to listen? Do you want me to problem solve? What role do you want me to play? I said, well, I knew we were just here as friends having dinner, and I'm not your coach. This has been an ongoing problem for a long time. I don't know that I know how to solve it. So, I mean, I think I do. But so I just listened and I let her have those moments of frustration. When I didn't really understand something, I kind of cocked my head. I didn't say anything and I just let her do her thing. And she really appreciated the fact that I did not overfunction as I typically would and jump in and try to solve, try to coach, asking 1,000 questions. And it was pretty cool that she even recognized that we've been friends forever. So she even recognized that, like, I just sat there and let her have that moment. Was it uncomfortable for me? Not really. Was it uncomfortable for her? Not really, but it was a different role.
Mhm.
It was kind of interesting. But my point in all of that is I think that sometimes those labels we carry, I am a fast creative problem solver, that is true. It doesn't have to be true all the time. I don't always have to be the fast creative problem solver. Sometimes I can just sit back and let it happen. I can watch people fail because I know in my life I have learned the greatest lessons when something hasn't worked out the way I thought it was going to. So those moments where you don't jump in to soothe, those moments where you don't jump in to rescue, that is people on the edge of growth. Who are we to take that away from somebody? Question that's coming up for me is, can you sit still while someone else adjusts? Can you just be there? That's the practice of getting out of the overfunctioning, is to just sit still while someone else figures it out.
With that, I'm Carla Lewis.
And I am DocShellie. Thanks for tuning in today. We will see you next week for another episode. Until then, take care. As we shift out of being that overfunctioner, when you change the role you are playing, the cast in your life might need to change.